Questions?
You should be too.
Sure.
Those three rebounds you got were huge.
It was huge.
Stewart, can you just talk about how you guys came out in the second half, especially after another good start by USF?
In the second half, we wanted to make sure that we came out just as strong as we finished the first half. We knew that they were going to try and make a run, and I thought that our defense really stopped them from that.
Talk a little bit about the defense that especially Mariah played on Courtney tonight and what that did for the team.
Mariah, our guards, Gabby, they did a great job containing Courtney Williams, and to guard her is no easy task. She's a great player, and Mo really limited the easy shot she got.
Geno, you talked last night about the great start that you had reminded you of some of the great teams that you had. How about that defensive effort in the second quarter? Same thing?
Yeah. The thing we talk about all the time is we just want to give ourselves a chance to win. And if we play defense the way we played it, then we're always going to have a chance to win. And then how much we win by depends on how many shots go in. So if a lot of shots don't go in, we're going to win by a little because our defense is going to give us a chance to win. And if we make a lot of shots like we did in the second half, we're going to win by a lot. So it starts on the defensive end, and then it carries over into the offensive end. We just need like a 5-minute run, and that kind of gets us some separation. And then that puts pressure on the other team. So our defense puts pressure, but then because we score so often doing runs, puts a lot of pressure on them to have to make shots. And that's kind of the way the game went in the second half.
Geno, is it good to kind of get in a game like this, considering you now have almost 2 weeks off before you play again, as opposed to another cruise win, where you're going into practice?
Yeah.
Kind of mindset.
Yeah, it's not ideal to have this much time off before you play again, especially this time of year. It's like, I guess like a football team in a bowl game when you're playing great, and then you got a month before you play the biggest game of the year. It's crazy. But winning a championship is supposed to be hard. I don't care what level. When you're playing for a championship, it's supposed to be hard, and South Florida makes it hard. They make it really, really hard, and I think a game like that just reminds you this is what we're going to face the rest of the month. This is what it's going to be like, And I like the fact that when we are put in that situation, we respond.
Do you think Lou has what it takes to be the next great one here?
Does she have what it takes? She kind of reminds me of Stewie as a freshman. She struggled a little bit. She didn't have the start that Stewie had, but they're very similar in a lot of ways. Then they have similar personalities, and I think Stewie's obviously a lot more gifted because she can do so many more things. But Lou has a different way of doing kind of the same things, but just in a different way. And the thing that I like is that Lou responds when you challenge her. If you challenge her really, really hard, she responds. And they're the ones that usually turn out to be really good players. The ones that early on, when you get after them, they don't wilt. They just come out, and they come out stronger. So yeah, she's got a lot of work to do, obviously, but I'd rather have her than 99% of the players that are playing in the country.
Good question.
How are you able to take a team that's competed well against you and beat them by an increasingly larger margin each time?
Well, again, I think that just reflects the number of shots that go in. We talk about this a lot. we get the same shots most nights. You know, it's not like, you know, any secret. Most nights that we play, we get the exact same shots as the night before. And sometimes a lot of them go in and sometimes not as many. And the other 2 times that we played South Florida, including the first half today or the first 10 minutes, we struggle putting the ball in the basket for whatever reason. Part of it has to do with them. And then when we got going, you know, they weren't at full speed either. You know, they're not 100%. But in games like this, we do some little things that are different. So maybe that accounts for it. We don't just run our run-of-the-mill stuff. You know, we do some other things that we tweak things a little bit to get her the ball more often, so she doesn't complain and have her agent call me or something like that.
Geno, how many seeds do you think this league gets this year? Do you think they get 3? And do you think USF gets hurt a little bit by having 3 built-in losses to you guys?
Yeah. You know, one thing I learned about the NCAA tournament is if you don't have bad losses, it doesn't hurt you. So I don't think losing to us 3 times affects their seed one bit. I think if they look at it and say, well, they lost to Memphis, who's not going to make the tournament probably, you know, that hurts you. But how much? I mean, if you're telling me that there's 16 other teams way better than South Florida, then I want to play all of them because they're South Florida is really good. And if they're healthy, they're going to be really good in the tournament, just like they were last year and the year before. Temple, you know, Temple got hurt by a couple games that they played early in the season, and I think they should get in. But it's a weird year, you know. Teams that used to always be in and used to always be high seeds are really struggling. So I hope Temple gets in. I hope we get at least 3. I hope we do.
Geno, part of the shutting down of Courtney, it wasn't just Mo tonight. It was also Gabby. Could you just talk about what Gabby brings to the team defensively? Because, you know, she's known as the high jumping rebounder and that type of thing, but she seemed to frustrate Courtney a little bit tonight.
The hard part for Mariah guarding Courtney Williams is Courtney Williams just jumps over and shoots it. So Mariah's as quick as Courtney is, but when Courtney elevates, there's nothing Mo can do about it. So when we are able to take her and guide her towards where, say, Gabby is or where Stewie is, then it makes it real difficult for her to get the shots that she wants. And then we just put Gabby on her completely, and now she has a completely different problem. She's got somebody guarding her that's as athletic as she is, but way bigger and way stronger. You know, Gabby's the kind of kid that can guard everybody on the floor. And she's exactly what we need. You know, when I remember talking to her, I said, you need to go and come off the bench because we're going to need that to win the national championship. This is what I was talking about. And that's what she does.
Geno, was that fun to watch Mariah play Courtney, though, the way she was just kind of all over? Was that?
It is. I think the players get a kick out of it because they're playing against really good players, and that's what players want to do. I think that's why, you know, when people talk about, you know, who we're playing and what, you know, how good our league is, they forget the fact that every time we play a team that's supposed to be really, really, really good, we play better. And that's because, you know, these players love to play against good players. They love to play against good teams. You know, the adrenaline is flowing more often and just everything's just a little bit more hyper. And it was a great battle between those two tonight. They wore her out. I mean, she had 18 shots to score 16 points. You know, if we can do that, that's pretty good. You know, I should figure out a way to get our good players more shots than they get. we probably don't get our great players enough shots. And I should figure out a way to do that.
Are there any other questions for Breanna?
I had one. It's very rare that a player on another team expresses confidence that they can actually compete and beat UConn. Courtney had just some innocent comments about that, and the your teammates were saying that it was a subject for conversation in the locker room about that. Was it, Breanna? Was it a source of motivation?
Oh, definitely. We saw her comments that she made last night, and any confident player is going to make those type of comments. But on our end, we don't want to hear that, and it just adds more fuel to the fire. And it was a conference championship. We were ready to go as we're there.
Breanna, from senior night through now, you go into this tournament and you finish it as most outstanding player. Do you ever sit back and say, we're nearing the end of this ride and moving on? And then, Coach, do you ever say, geez, we're nearing the end of this ride, and sort of feel some regret or sadness, or how do you guys look at that?
I think I was looking at my phone today and it said March 7th, and I was just like, wow, March just started. February was just here, and it's definitely coming to an end, and it's coming very quickly, but I'm just trying to enjoy it. Obviously, it's going to be sad. Nothing's going to be like being here at Connecticut, being with these guys, these coaches, these players. And I think the best way to remember everything is to enjoy it and to go out the way we want to go out.
Yeah, I feel a lot different when this time of the year comes around. Every year, because every year you have seniors, and every year you have a team that you're coming down to the time of the year where they're not going to be together anymore, and it's always I think it's always a time to look back and appreciate, which I don't ever do during the season. You're not going to find me in the middle of January going, man, I'm really going to miss Stewie. She's so great. I just don't find myself ever doing that. But then when March comes around, you really see things in a different light. And that's why you want them to play their best basketball in March. Because no matter what we did, September, November, December, January, February, the only thing people are going to remember is what was March like. And I want March, especially this year, to be, the best month of Stewie's life. And it's no guarantees, but that's why we play the games.
Do we have any other questions for Breanna?
Stewie, how much pride do you guys take in playing defense?
We take a lot of pride in playing defense. I think that, we know that we can score points, and offense, comes easier to us than other teams, I guess you could say. And, defensively, we want to make sure we frustrate teams, don't let them get the shots that they want to get, and in turn, we'll turn that momentum to our side.
Any other questions for Breanna?
Really?
Remaining questions for Coach Auriemma?
Geno, how close was this defensive effort to what you would consider an optimal defensive performance?
Yeah, I mean, there were some sequences tonight that everything played out perfectly, and that doesn't happen a lot. But all the rotations were just about perfect. Everybody was exactly where they needed to be, and a lot of defense is just really hard work, and it's really a lot of commitment to doing it. Some kids aren't good defensive players because they just don't care. They don't want to be. And sometimes you play really good defensively and the other guy is just better offensively. But today, every shot that they got, for the most part, there were some breakdowns, obviously, like there always are. But the majority of the shots that South Florida got tonight they had to work really hard to get those. And it was the right people shooting the ball from the places we wanted them to shoot it from. And they just really, really helped each other. They really communicated. There was a little bit of a different look in their eyes tonight, our players, especially that one sequence in front of our bench where they couldn't inbound the ball. There was and a couple shot clock violations that were just about perfect.
Geno, did you know early on that this team could be this good defensively?
No. We've got some ingredients that make us a good defensive team. Stewie's a great shot blocker, so she cleans up a lot of problems. And Mariah and Tuck, this is their 4th year, so they're really smart. And Kia Nurse just plays really, really hard. So we have some ingredients to work with there. And it's just a matter of putting it all together and having everybody, be coordinated in an effort to make sure that it looks good. And Lou's gotten better. Lou's gotten better defensively. We've improved a lot, I think, defensively as the season went on, and that's all you hope to do. But come NCAA tournament time, you're going to be playing a lot of teams that can score, and sometimes just nothing you can do about it. Nothing you can do about it. Just got to tip your hat to the other guys, but defense is effort, and we had great effort tonight.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.